Welcome to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and while the federal government may be shut down, we are still very much here. Even our DJ Tolliver, who is apparently an essential employee. Tolliver.
Oh, I bet you say that to all the DJs.
Yeah, exactly. Although also should point out, public radio doesn't get any federal funding anymore, so we wouldn't be included in a government shutdown anyway.
Hey.
Maybe that's too soon. But this is the at least 11th government shutdown since 1980. The longest ever was 35 days during the first Trump administration. Some of the big things the government pays for, like Social Security and Medicare, are unaffected, but many other areas of spending are. And hundreds of thousands of federal workers are either working without being paid or not working at all. It is not a sustainable way to run a business or a government. And we're going to get to the why with our guests in a moment. But from you, we want to know the what. What does the government shutdown mean for you? Are you one of the federal workers who's been laid off? Are you worried about whether you'll be able to get your SNAP benefits? Have you been stranded at an airport or unable to take a trip to a national park? We want to hear from you at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353, or you can write to us at listentothemiddle.com. But first, last week on the show, we asked what you thought of President Trump's use of the National Guard in cities around the country. Here are some of the voicemails we got.
Hello, my name's Ben, calling from Michigan, and calling in the National Guard to police our cities is like calling in a hammer when not everything is a nail that needs to be driven in.
Hi, my name's Evan Corliss. I'm calling from southern New Hampshire. It kind of seems odd that we have deployments that aren't really doing much of anything, and if the purpose is to quote-unquote clear the streets or reduce crime, why isn't any of that direct action happening?
My name is Joan. I'm calling from California. What do I think about the National Guard being used in our own country, the way it's being used? Well, as far as I can tell, it's nothing but a threat from our president. He's threatening all of us. And that ain't cool, man.
That ain't cool, Tolliver. Thanks to everyone who called in. You can hear that full show by subscribing to The Middle wherever you listen to podcasts. So our question this hour, how does the government shutdown affect you? Tolliver, how can people reach us?
You can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can write to us or me at listentothemiddle.com. I'm checking all your emails, or comment on our live stream on YouTube.
Joining us this hour, journalist and author Ray Suarez, host of the new series Wisdom Keepers on PBS. Ray, great to have you back on the show.
Great to be invited. Thanks.
And former CNN chief political correspondent Candy Crowley is with us as well. Candy, great to have you back as well.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, so before we get to the phones, you've both seen many government shutdowns throughout your career. Candy, I'll start with you. Is there anything different about this one?
I think the lack of urgency has struck me more than anything. Now, before I was kind of in the middle of it, when you're covering Capitol Hill. I can't believe I've been through 11 of them, or 10 of them anyway. And there just doesn't seem to be any kind of pressure at this moment. And there's also sort of all these outside things happening. I was struck tonight that most of the evening newses, all of the cables, they got around to the government shutdown about halfway through the show. So there just doesn't seem to be an urgency to it at this moment.
Well, and Ray, the other thing that struck me is that the central issue right now in the negotiations seems to be health care. The Democrats want these Obamacare subsidies that are about to expire to be extended. If that doesn't happen, there are millions of Americans who will see a huge spike in their insurance premiums. Does that mean that at its core, this shutdown is just another fight over Obamacare, which has been litigated so many times over the years?
Yeah, but it's true, but it's a funny kind of fight over Obamacare, because right now the Democrats are saving the Republicans from the full bite of what that Republican cutback would mean if it was allowed to take effect. And yet, it's not clear that the Democrats are going to get any credit for that. Not so far, anyway.
But you think, based on the way that you say that, you think that they will actually extend the subsidies for Obamacare at the end of the day?
It's not at all clear that that will be the eventual outcome. And, the current speaker seems to be holding the line against the man who thinks he's the future speaker. It's hard to see how anybody comes out a winner, including the voters, on this one.
And Candy, President Trump has said that because of the shutdown, he wants to permanently lay off federal workers, close down programs that Democrats like. He's already frozen funding for some infrastructure projects in states like California, New York, and Illinois. Can he really do that? Have you seen that happen in a shutdown before?
I have not seen that in a shutdown before. In fact, I think that he cannot use it as an excuse to get rid of entire programs or even to fire people who are, quote, the non-essentials. So the people who are sitting at home waiting for this to end so they can go back to work. So no, I don't think he can, but I think at the moment, it seems like a bargaining thing. Well, I'm just going to get rid of all your programs. And to which the Democrats reply, why is that new? That's what he's been doing since January. So this is just Doge by any other name is still, cutting people out of jobs. But at the moment, we haven't seen it. And it's been more, seems to me, it's been more of a wedge to try to get Democrats to move on this, saying, okay, I'll just fire people.
Ray, what kind of leverage do you think the Democrats have right now?
Well, it's long been said in Washington that if the other party holds the trifecta, the House, the Senate, and the Oval Office, all you have is negative power, the power to make things not happen. And that's what the Democrats are using right now. It's sometimes a risky maneuver, but it's all they've got. They can't make anything happen that they want to happen. So all they can do right now is dig in their heels, try to message that they're doing it on behalf of people who are going to be hurt by Republican spending plans if they go into effect, and see what happens.
Candy, if we zoom out for a moment here, you mentioned that there are so many other huge stories going on in the news today, not least of which is a potential peace deal in the Middle East. What are these recurring shutdowns, not just this one, but all of them that we've had in recent years, do to America's credibility, economically and otherwise, especially when you have a president who touts his negotiating ability and now we're in a stalemate?
Right. And what does it do to Americans' trust in their government to get anything done? I mean, when you've got, I think one of the Democrat talking points is, listen, they're in charge of everything. So they're responsible, right? And that seems to have some resonance, as far as I can see. We're far from done with this, so who knows how it'll all shake down. But the truth is that in the end, nobody, I think, Ray said it right. In the end, nobody wins this thing. And again, it hasn't begun to hurt to the extent that has filtered up to Congress or to the president. And I think it certainly doesn't help. It just looks like chaos. You're sitting over in, Italy or, wherever, watching yet another, you see troops on the streets and you see people, protesting on the streets. And then all of a sudden the government's not working and, half the IRS is off, which, to most people doesn't sound bad. But so, it just adds to the kind of chaos that doesn't help markets. It doesn't help the American people, and it certainly looks bad from the overseas perspective.
A reminder that you can reach us at 844-4-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. I just want to sneak in a call here before we take a quick break. Kelly in Eugene, Oregon is joining us. Kelly, how is the government shutdown affecting you?
Well, it affects me two different ways. There's my business, and we provide services to a lot of the government community, and we're not able to get paid now with them being furloughed. So therefore, that leaves a huge gap for all of the independent contractors that I have that work with me with these vendors. And then on a personal note, I have so many people in my circle that now cannot work. They are not receiving a paycheck, and therefore they're concerned about if they have no money coming in by the end of this month, what is that going to do for their home payment, for car payment, most importantly, their children, how are they going to eat? And so it's a really sad state of, besides worrying about the obvious that we have with the current administration affecting Oregon, it's really sad for this now to be going on top of all the rest of it.
And how long do you think it's going to go on?
Well, unfortunately, despite the lies that are being put out there, the Republicans do run both the House and the Senate. And from what I've seen and what I've read and heard, unless things are brought to the table the way that they want it, we could be looking at this. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be surprised if they took it through to the holidays. I really wouldn't.
Kelly, thank you for that call.
Because
Ray Suarez
Trump is not concerned.
Yeah, I think we've got the point, Kelly. Thank you so much. Ray Suarez, what do you think, just briefly? I mean, could it go that long to the holidays?
It could. And that would make it one of the longest shutdowns, if not the longest, in the annals of this thing happening in recent decades. Candy, I don't know. You'd have to check me on this, but I think that would make it the longest.
Yeah, it would be the
35 all the way to December.
35 days was the longest before that. Yeah. Tolliver, by the way, President Trump has laid the blame at the feet of Democratic lawmakers, but he had a much different take before he was president of the United States.
Yeah, he was actually very vocal about who's at fault for a government shutdown. Here he is in an interview back in 2011 during the Obama administration, talking with Today host Meredith Vieira.
In my opinion, I hear the Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, and it's not going to be a horrible shutdown because, as you know, things will sort of keep
Well, it was a partial shutdown, right?
If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together. How's he going to corral all these people?
So how would you do it now? Now, you're in the Oval Office right now.
I would get everybody together and we'd have a budget and it would
They've all gotten together.
Well, that's because they don't have the right leader.
That was then. Tolliver, what are we listening to here?
Yeah. This is Aaliyah with We Need a Resolution. Ironically, this song almost didn't happen because Timbaland, who produced it, was fighting with Aaliyah's label. But hey, they worked it out, and so can we.
Yeah.
More hit calls coming up on The Middle.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. If you're just tuning in, The Middle is a national call-in show. We're focused on elevating voices from the middle, geographically, politically, philosophically, or maybe you just want to meet in the middle. This hour, we're asking you how the government shutdown is affecting you. Tolliver, what is the number to call in?
It's 844-4-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also write to us at listentothemiddle.com. I'm checking all your emails, so get them in, or you can hit us up on social media.
I'm joined by former CNN chief political correspondent Candy Crowley and journalist and author Ray Suarez. Let's go back to the phones and Joan, who is in Ridgecrest, California. Joan, how's the shutdown affecting you?
It's not affecting me directly this time, but I think that people don't understand exactly how the shutdown works. And as we get to furloughs, my husband was part of the Department of Defense last time we went through shutdowns, and we lost paychecks. And now Trump is, saying if we go into furlough or shutdown for too long, then people are going to start getting fired. Well, I don't see how this problem that is being caused by people in our Congress that can't get together and figure this out, which is, by the way, Democrats and Republicans, they can't figure this out. They get a vacation and they're paid. They come back and they don't do their job and they're paid. And all these people are at risk. And I don't understand how this is okay.
Yeah, Joan, thank you for that call. Candy Crowley, it is interesting. It would probably light a fire under Congress if they didn't get paid during a shutdown.
Yeah, it's always, to me, kind of amazing because there are all these people who generally, I don't recall a time when they didn't get back pay.
Right.
So, but that doesn't help when the rent is due now. It doesn't help when your credit card bill comes in and they're just adding more and more fees to it. So, but the fact of the matter is, it's, to me, would be embarrassing as a congressperson to be sitting at home. There's, as far as I can see, no upper negotiations going on with the people that can actually make a difference. Doesn't seem to be any kind of conversation other than through the TV with talking points. and they're all hanging out and getting their paychecks. It's a bad look. It's why I think in the end, this might be a wash in terms of who they blame. I think that the caller hinted at it, which is, you know, in the end, and up here in an area that I think is largely Republican, I know it's largely Republican where I am now in Upper Michigan, it's a pox on both their houses, right? They're mad at everybody.
Yeah. You know, Ray, the other thing that we heard from Joan there was that, you know, she was expecting that people would get paid at the end of the day. But Trump did float the other day that maybe they won't pay certain people at the end of the shutdown. I don't know if they will
He
actually
is talking
carry
about
through with that.
only some people being guaranteed their back pay and being backed up by his own budget director and head of OMB. So this may be different this time around if they try, I think, the politically risky move of not giving federal employees back pay. You know, there's this fantasy that all of them live right here in Washington, D.C. But in fact, the tens of thousands of people who work for the federal government are scattered across the country. And yes, they're concentrated here in the capital, but even here in this region, the contagion could spread. Mark Zandi, economist at Moody's Analytics, identified all 4 of the states around here as being either in recession or on the verge of recession. Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, and West Virginia, all of which have links to the D.C. economy. So, I don't know, could be a roll of the dice. You've got Winsome Earl Sears trying to win a governor's race in Virginia. It could be tough for her if thousands of Virginians who work for the federal government are not getting paid because of a Republican president and the machinations of Russell Vogt, one of the fathers, intellectual godfathers of Project 2025.
Right. And actually, outside of the Washington, D.C. area, 2 of the other states that have the highest number of federal workers are California and Texas. One big blue state, one big red state. So it really does affect people all across the country. Let's go to Dr. Yolanda, who's calling from Kansas City, Kansas. Welcome to the middle. How's the government shutdown affecting you?
Well, thank you. Well, I work in a county, in Wyandotte County, which has healthcare statistics similar to Alabama's, okay? And it's a health, and I work in a health manpower shortage area, and 30% of my patients have Medicaid, 30% of my patients have Medicare, 20% probably are on Obamacare, and the others are either self-pay or have insurance from their jobs, okay? And it will affect my patients. I mean, if my patients can't get care because, you know, the request is that they continue the Obamacare and then open up the government, I think that that's a legitimate request. I don't think that it's a little thing, you know. And it's very sad that they're making it a political thing. It needs to be a healthcare thing. We need to be looking at people's health and looking at what is good for them. Not only do they need jobs and income, but they also need healthcare. And so this is wrong what's happening. And I just want to make a comment that I called the White House just to comment that, you know, why in the world didn't you meet with the folks from the opposite side? That you were supposed to have a Sunday meeting to work this out, and you canceled the meeting. So obviously it looked like people wanted to meet and talk about this, but no one was interested in hearing it unless they immediately accepted exactly what one side said, and that's not negotiation. That's not working. So I called the White House, and I got a recording that I've never heard with any administration, even when they were shut down or something. The recording was the press secretary saying to me, she was saying, "Well, we are shut down because of this government shutdown, so we can't answer your call right now. But we're very interested, and we're trying to do the right thing by you, et cetera. But we want you to know that the reason this shutdown is happening is because the Democrats want to fund health care for illegal immigrants, and we are not going to." And you know what? I have been working in this shortage area for 40 years, okay? With the same, with Medicaid and Medicare being my primary pays, unless you're self-pay or whatever, before Obamacare. And I have never had someone who is illegally getting benefits from this government.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a lie, and it's an outright lie, and
Yeah.
it really infuriated me to hear that on the White House hotline being told. I mean, I thought the White House hotline was supposed to be for us to give opinions and not supposed to be propagandizing whatever it is that one side or the other is trying to say.
Well,
and I was very, very, very much offended.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. It sounds like your dogs are getting very excited about this too in the background.
Yeah, my dog is getting upset. Yes, they want health care too.
Well,
unfortunately,
they
I
want
have to
health
take
care
care of
too.
that.
Well, I appreciate the call. Thank you. Candy Crowley, it's so interesting to hear somebody there on the ground with people who rely on Medicare and Medicaid and Obamacare, and she's looking well past the government shutdown and saying this is the real issue, which is what the Democrats have been saying.
Right. And it's very few subjects touch home as closely as healthcare does, regardless of what venue you're getting it through. And the Democrats have a popular argument, if you will. It is, first of all, by law, undocumented workers cannot have access to any program, not Medicare, not Medicaid. Does Medicaid pick up some of the ER care that anybody will get walking into a public hospital because by law they have to treat people? Yes, but that's not them having Medicaid or Medicare. So, I think it's a cogent issue. I think Democrats seem to be on the right side of this issue because it is something that people care about. But I think the Republicans have done a great job in what you just heard that the White House is saying on a recording. They are saying it in other places as well. Well, what Republicans really want is to give Medicaid to undocumented workers.
What Democrats really want is what they're saying. Right. Yeah, exactly. Tolliver, I want to find out what's coming in online, but I don't want to lose our caller, Ryan, here, who's calling in from Salt Lake City, who is a government employee. Ryan, tell us how this is affecting you.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I think one thing that the general public doesn't understand, and I can't speak for other agencies, I know the agency I work for at least, and I have worked for more than one, but during a furlough, we cannot seek outside employment to basically steer clear of any conflicts of interest. So I can't just go get another job in the meantime.
So what do you do? Just to make sure you have enough money to live on.
I think it's a great question. Fortunately, I'm not paycheck to paycheck like some of my own coworkers who were also held exempt from the furlough, and it's a public-facing operation. So there are no operations. Stores are closed, but they're still being forced to go in every day and do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, let me just ask you one more thing. Do you call your congressman in a moment like this and complain to them and say you've got to figure this out?
I have, not since Shutdown, but I've spoken up on a number of issues actually throughout the year, and I think we've all come to accept that our elected officials are not really speaking for those they represent. So it's in many ways a wasted effort.
Yeah. Ryan, appreciate the call. Thank you so much. And Ray Suarez, there is a deadline coming up, I think this week for a lot of federal employees, and then next week on October 15th, the troops would miss a paycheck if the shutdown continues. Are those deadlines, do you think, important enough that maybe there will be some action before then?
I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that an exception will be made for the troops, because they are a very politically sensitive part of our national workforce. And, everybody wants to wrap themselves in the flag on this one, so you might get some widespread agreement about continuing to pay the troops. But air traffic controllers, curators at the Smithsonian, park rangers, people testing water samples in the upwaters of the Missouri River, those people, I don't know.
Tolliver.
Yeah. Ray, I had a question. So a lot of our listeners are emailing about ICE and about just asking if the shutdown affects, ICE enforcement.
I don't believe it does.
Does it?
And I would be very surprised if any paychecks aren't going out to them while they are deployed in the streets of American cities. Certainly their gas is getting paid for, and
I believe I read that they are considered essential even during a shutdown.
I would have been shocked if any halt or slowing down of those operations would happen during this shutdown.
Yeah. Lillian is calling in from Tampa, Florida. Lillian, go ahead with your thoughts. How is the shutdown affecting you?
It's affecting me because I'm worried. The budget bills already affected me. I've lost $60 in food stamps, and I'm not sure that the people who process those will be able to do that next month. I receive Medicare and Medicaid. I'm not sure those will be processed. I'm on Social Security because I'm a retiree. I'm not sure those will be processed. So I'm already having trouble just paying rent and utilities and getting food in my house. And the longer this goes on and the less services that may be provided, just have me not panicked yet, but on the verge of panic. And there is no middle here. We're either too poor to manage this or well enough off that they don't give a damn. Sorry, but that's just how I feel at this point.
Yeah, you feel that people are not thinking about people in your income level as we go through this experience.
No, because they don't experience it. I just wish they'd live 30 days on our income, and they would understand how devastating this can be. And I won't call my congressman because he's a Republican. I know he doesn't care. And if it was a Democrat, I would call and say stick with it, because this isn't the Democrats. The Republicans have the House, they have Congress, the Senate, they have the presidency. How they can blame the party, the minority party, is beyond me, and how people don't see that is also beyond me. I'm just totally disgusted and on the verge.
Lillian, yeah, thank you so much, and we're thinking of you as this goes on. Candy Crowley, your thoughts, just as we hear that really real story from Lillian about how this is affecting her.
Right, because that's the problem, is that people who can least afford it, that's where the most impact is, right? And so what you're going to see is, and I will say Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security payments all should go out. I don't, if that helps her at all, it gives her a little hope.
Yes, they
those
do go
things
out, right.
should still go out. So, but the WIC program, food stamps, things like that, I think there are, those things are affected. Housing, what doesn't stop slows down. And slowing down when you are living not just paycheck to paycheck, but day to day is absolutely devastating. And so it's always the people who can least afford it that feel the very first impact. And then it trickles out, because what happens is that the people who have been being paid because they're government workers, or they're getting, they're in the WIC program or one of the SNAP, one of the food programs, they're no longer buying things. So who does that affect? That affects the small store at the end of the street or the big store. Right. So eventually it spreads into businesses. But right now, the people who are feeling it within the first week are the people who can least afford it.
Right. And Ray, there was a Redfin Ipsos survey that found 17% of Americans are delaying a major purchase because of the shutdown, and 7% are canceling a major purchase. So it is already having larger economic effects.
Especially in a region like this one, where not only people who directly work for the federal government, as we heard from one of your callers, there are vendors, there are contractors, there are firms that do work for the federal government that know they're not going to get paid. Restaurants and hotels are already seeing a drop-off in business. It's going to spread its tendrils out gradually as it drags on and affect a lot of businesses.
Well, Tolliver, before President Trump's first term, the longest shutdown ever was under President Clinton. That lasted 21 days.
Yeah, here's Clinton back in January of 1996, just 3 days before that shutdown ended.
This is not how a great country behaves. And as I have said for months and months, and every day since this shutdown occurred, this is not how to balance the budget. It is not influencing our talks. We ought to reopen the government.
Interesting to hear him say it's not influencing our talks. Tolliver, what are we listening to here?
Yeah. This is Wyclef Jean with Gone Till November. And I'm not saying Congress will be gone till November, but Wyclef has not been wrong about a lot. Okay, he was in the Fugees. More of your calls coming up on The Middle.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and this hour we're asking you how the government shutdown is affecting you. You can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Again, 844-464-3353. Or you can reach out to us at listentothemiddle.com. I am joined by journalist and author Ray Suarez and former CNN chief political correspondent Candy Crowley. Let me get another call in here. Robert is in Boise, Idaho. Robert, go ahead with your thoughts. How is the government shutdown affecting you?
Well, I'm lucky because I work. I am not on Social Security, but how it's affecting me is I have a husband who is in federal prison, and they are not getting any contact whatsoever. Like mail's being delivered, but mail is not being presented to the prisoners. I'm lucky because I know where my spouse is. However, you were talking earlier about the people who've been arrested by ICE, and if they're trying to reach out to somebody where they don't know where they're at and they can't get mail, that's affecting a lot of people.
How long do you think that it will go on? Are you thinking it's going to last for a while, or this will be over soon?
I'm pessimistic. I'd like to say it would end in a couple of weeks. If this is anything like other countries where things have been shut down, like France and other countries, this could take months.
Robert, thank you for that call. Candy Crowley, that's one I wasn't thinking of, but it's a good point. When you have to interact with any government agency or service, it can be a problem when there's a shutdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, any kind of service is going to be slower because a lot of the federal, I'm assuming this is a federal prison he's talking about. Anything that, the IRS or the agriculture department, any sort of service there, if these are non-essential workers, they're not coming into work now. So whatever it is you're getting from the government is going to be slower, whether it's the mail. Obviously, the post office is sort of one of those hybrid places. But, I'm not exactly sure what the problem is in the prisons, but I'm assuming if it's a federal prison that there are certain people considered non-essential. We'd love to know who they are, but nonetheless, it is across the board going to affect things. And I just think it takes a while for people to know. If you haven't filed your income tax yet, half the IRS is gone at this point. So you've got, another week left to file if you're late, and you should file on time, and then this wouldn't be a problem.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, if you go to the IRS for help, better luck on that. So there's lots of things and programs that the federal government does and can no longer deliver on, at least in a speedy fashion.
Yeah. Mary is calling in from Parksville, Tennessee. Mary, how is the government shutdown affecting you?
Well, personally, not yet. Some of my coworkers were furloughed, but I was not furloughed because my project is not funded through the appropriations.
But you work for the government, you're saying?
No, I don't work for the government. I am a field interviewer I do social science research, and our projects are funded by the government. My project is not funded through the appropriations process. So my project is still funded, but some of my coworkers have been furloughed. They got a stop work order.
And what are your concerns? Are you worried that it could end up affecting you soon and you're just not yet affected?
Well, yeah, for me, my main concern is I was cut off of Medicaid when my son turned 19 earlier this year because he was the reason why I qualified. In Tennessee, they didn't expand Medicaid, so there's no Medicaid for anyone. Doesn't matter how low their income is if they don't have someone that they care for. So I'm cut off. Shortly after I got cut, or shortly before I got cut off, I learned I have a tumor that needs to have surgery. So I'm waiting until next year, 2026, when my son will not be my tax dependent anymore, and when I'm waiting for November when the ACA opens back up.
Yeah.
But if the Democrats don't stand their ground, if they back down, or if the Republicans don't make a compromise, then and the subsidies go away, I might not get health care, and might not be able to get the surgery that I need.
Yeah, Mary, thank you. I appreciate your call. And Ray Suarez, there are more than 20 million people who are on on these Obamacare plans where the subsidies would expire within a matter of weeks.
Jeremy, less talked about is the fact that if the subsidies from the Affordable Care Act do go away, red states are going to be hit harder than blue states because those states more generally failed to expand Medicare and Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, pushing more people into the ACA marketplace. And if those subsidies go away, you're just going to have a huge new number of people with no access to health care at all. The kind of people that will lose their care in red states are on Medicare and Medicaid in blue states because their governors and their legislatures agreed to extend coverage under the Affordable Care Act. So it's not a rain that falls equally on everybody's house. Let's put it that way.
Well, and when you hear these callers that have been calling in that are really, desperate for the services that they get from the government, whether it's a subsidy for health care or whether it's food stamps or what have you, it makes you understand why even Marjorie Taylor Greene, a very, very conservative member of Congress, Candy, came out and said it's the Republicans who need to open the government. She is talking to people who are worried about the health care premium issue that Ray was just mentioning. And she's saying, don't blame the Democrats. Like we need to deal with this health care issue.
Right, and including members of her family that are being affected. They've already gotten their notice of how much their Obamacare costs are going to go up. It is a wonder to me because I feel as though the Democrats have actually done Republicans a favor. They just kind of need to say yes, right? Because the train is coming down that track. You hear this in a lot of, on the streets, but you hear this from the caller just heard is that I'm about to lose my health care. A lot of people, 20 million, as you say, are on Obamacare who suddenly are seeing sometimes 200, 300% increases or will see them. And Democrats have gone, whoa, we can't do this. And, Republicans ought to say yes at this point, but it's become such a power struggle about, well, we'll talk about it after you open the government. And I just think that politically speaking, this has been a gift from Democrats that Republicans either don't see or don't want to see. But I do think it's an opportunity for them to undo or to not get into some of the damage that would be done if these Obamacare subsidies go away.
Tolliver, what else is coming in online?
Yeah, Candace and KC, listening from KCUR, says, as much as I disagree with the government shutdown, I also disagree that the pandemic era subsidies for private insurance plans should continue. She thinks we need to move to single payer. And then Bob in Tallahassee says, what's the possibility that the administration could differentiate between Democrat and Republican voters, then decide on that basis who to pay and who not to pay? Which I thought was kind of an interesting question.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. Ray, I mean, could they even do that if they wanted to? Say, we're just going to pay the
Well, the president
Republicans?
is mused about it. He's talking about cutting certain programs and certain employees from the federal government, or making sure that certain employees and departments don't get paid when the shutdown is over. He thinks, or at least is pretending to think, that there's a surgical way to do that. I would strenuously disagree. There is no way to do that, and this is going to end up hurting a lot more people than if he thinks he can just do this in a way, a binary way, and hurt Democrats and not Republicans. He's really misreading the situation, getting bad advice.
Tori is calling in from Fort Collins, Colorado. Tori, go ahead. How is the government shutdown affecting you?
Hi. I wanted to talk about kind of a niche issue that the government shutdown is having an effect on. There's about 250 scientific observers that are contracted and work for NOAA and the National Marine Fisheries Service. They are out on boats in the Bering Sea taking data every day, but their advisors and basically anyone on land who is in charge of that data and the observers, they're furloughed. So these people are out at sea without their advisors giving them information.
Wow. Are you part of that group? Or do you have connections there?
Yeah, I was a scientific observer, and so I have a lot of friends who are at sea right now or who just got back from being at sea. It's a very strange time.
Yeah, I bet. Are they worried about their own safety?
I don't think it's safety-wise. There are the contract companies that the government uses to hire observers. We do have a few coordinators that do their best to take care of the observers, and they're in contact with the boats themselves. But in terms of the fishing data, which are used to set all the fishing quotas for salmon, halibut, anything that's fished for, any questions with the data or any problem they have with the boat, people will have to wait until they get back to land, and it could be months before they're able to sort of debrief this with a government official.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you, Tori, for that. I'm going to just go to you, Ray, for a second here, because what this reminds me of is in my history in public broadcasting, if you're working at like the network, like NPR or PBS, and you're out in the field somewhere very far from the home base and something goes wrong, they've got the resources to deal with you. But if you're working for like a local station and you're out and covering a hurricane or something like that, if something goes wrong, they're not going to be able to help you. I feel for these people in the Bering Sea because that's got to be the last thing on Congress's mind about how this shutdown is affecting people.
And the caller called it very niche, but there are thousands of jobs working for the federal government that a lot of people wouldn't even realize is a job. And they're all across farming and manufacturing and the environment. It is, everybody has things that they wish the government didn't do, but then there's government workers that they like. And this is one of those things where you put it to people that they'd say, well, we can probably farm that work out. But if you are involved in the very serious and large fisheries industry in Alaska and something is throwing a monkey wrench into the works, it's a perfect example of how all the changes is whose ox is being gored.
Jamie is calling in from West Milton, Pennsylvania. Hi, Jamie. How's the shutdown affecting you?
So the shutdown is not affecting me directly. It is affecting a family member in a nursing home in another state. And the longer this goes on, the bigger the concern gets that. And what Trump is proposing with cuts to Medicaid and then Medicare, of course, although most people don't even realize Medicare's going to be hit so hard. I am waiting to see how this plays out. I live in income-based housing for seniors. There are people here who definitely are being impacted. But I want to tell you that I am sorry that so many Americans are being adversely affected by this shutdown. However, I support the shutdown because for two reasons. The Republicans are holding Democrats responsible when they know for a fact that they can use what they call the nuclear option, which has been used in the past, to
change the
bring
rules.
Right, to bring everybody back on board. But they're not doing it. They're pointing out how horrible the Democrats are. They're making a spectacle of it. They're blaming everybody for what they wouldn't do. They went on vacation for a week before when discussions could have happened. They went on vacation again. Trump went on vacation even before the shutdown was going to happen. None of them are serious about this. None of them. They're looking to blame us, and it's all a cover-up.
Well, let me ask Candy Crowley about that main point, Jamie, because I'm interested in that too, which is, couldn't they change the rules? They did it for how many votes you need to get a Supreme Court nominee through. Couldn't the Republicans just say, okay, we're going to just allow 50 votes now, 51 votes to get the government reopened?
My honest answer is I'm not sure, except for they could pretty much do anything. I think the question that always stops one side or the other from declaring the nuclear option is they're not always going to be in control. So once they use a nuclear option, what keeps the other side from using that when they get back in power? So they've been fairly cautious about it, and this may be one of those things that they are cautious about, but I don't know the ins and outs about whether they could just say, yeah, we don't need 60 votes, we only need 51.
Yeah. We have come to the end of the hour. Ray, I'll just give you the last word here. As we've heard this hour, there are at least two other huge stories going on right now. This ceasefire and hostage release deal in the Middle East, President Trump sending the National Guard troops to multiple American cities against the wishes of local officials. Do you see all these things as connected in any way?
Yes, they are part of a presidential assertion of unprecedented power. Donald Trump wants to show that he is the ruler of the United States, that he has the kind of power that allows him to overrule governors and send National Guards members from other states, from other jurisdictions, into their states over their objections. A big, big deal. And as far as the Middle East peace goes, you would think he wouldn't want to crowd out the picture, that he'd want the chance for a victory lap. This is for a guy who's very, very obsessed with coverage and the optics of problems. You'd think that this would be more important to him.
Well, a great note to end on. Journalist Ray Suarez, host of the PBS series Wisdom Keepers, and former CNN political correspondent Candy Crowley. Thanks so much to both of you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. There are extra episodes of our One Thing Trump Did podcast every week on the Middle podcast feed. And next week, we'll be back here joined by astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, taking your calls about the role of science in the public life, which is certainly top of mind right now after big cuts to scientific research funding by the federal government.
And you can reach us at 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can reach out at listentothemiddle.com, where you can also sign up for our free weekly newsletter.
I like how you really just enunciate listentothemiddle.com.
Listen,
Thank you, Tolliver.
because I always go listen to the middle. Yeah.
The Middle is brought to you by Long Neck Media, distributed by Illinois Public Media in Urbana, Illinois, and produced by Harrison Patino, Danny Alexander, Sam Burmistaz, John Barth, Annika Deschler, and Brandon Kondritz. Our technical director is Steve Mork. Thanks to our satellite radio listeners, our podcast audience, and the hundreds of public radio stations making it possible for people across the country to listen to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and I will talk to you next week.